Okay,
Okay. All right, I'm forgetting what to do.
Oh.
Call the order.
Don is on.
Hey, Don. Oh, Don's on.
You, good evening.
Oh, I don't see, oh, there you are.
Hey.
Oh, where are you? In a nice inn or something?
Where are you, Don?
I am in New Hampshire at my son's house.
Beautiful.
Nice.
It is. Yeah.
Looks very historic.
It's a timber frame home and you can see the
Yeah.
construction in the back. It's a pretty amazing structure.
Well, thank you for participating from afar.
Oh, yes, thank you. You're quite welcome.
You called the meeting to order. I forget, do you do the roll call or do I?
I think I'm supposed to, but do you think we need to go through everyone?
Okay, we can just say this here.
Yeah,
Lorraine, sub chair.
Herb Washington, Vice Chair. John Dyken, Secretary.
And
I
got done.
Yeah.
Forecast.
okay.
What do you do about election of office?
Should we,
We'll put out nominations. So election of officers, I nominate Lorraine Stubb to be chair. I'll second. All
Oh, I'll second that.
yeah. So all those in favor?
All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
So for vice chair, nominate Bert Watson.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. For clerk. I'll know John David. All those in favor?
Aye. Yeah. What?
Because they. But I'll say copies of what I've done.
Okay.
But like Kate Wall starts asking for it in January and then Alexa gave me, I couldn't even remember what the hearings were about, so. You know, just kind of list what we have for hearings and then.
Okay.
The sort of paragraph. We have nobody here for audience of citizens. It's from June.
There is no other person that would be like.
do the calendar? Do the calendar yet, 2020?
Oh, the calendar.
So it's Monday of the month.
Okay. And then the filing date is, it's 10 business days.
Yeah,
Do I have a motion to approve the calendar?
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I had a bunch of corrections on this because first of all, my name was spelled wrong multiple times. I correct all of them.
caught that. No, we made edits for the minute taker, but she's not the minute taker anymore.
It's actually doing.
Her name is on there. She did a few meetings for us and, well, the only one for us and some for,
Oh, Tiffany Trowbridge.
yeah, and for, conservation. But she only lasted a few meetings. We never got the edits.
First thing I noticed is my name is STUB. It's very simple. People want to add an extra B or an S on it.
Yeah.
So that throughout is incorrect. And the other thing, when we talked about the restoration meeting house, that was all mixed up. Because it's not the it's a cupola that was the project last year. The cupola had been on the word, when the meeting house was in its Worthington School era. There was a Victorian cupola on top, which has been on the ground for 50 years.
Yeah.
Last year.
Oh, dude, I was in charge.
Well, and then so his dad died there.
You're talking, so the paragraph talking about Worthington Regional School?
And I was like, that's like the last thing I want, because I'm not seeing that.
I was
It's just like.
Well, it's kind of noisy. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Are you asking, I'll tell you, if Alexa's there and there's a way to turn the volume up from the broadcasting side, it would be helpful. I'm maxed on a volume and I am having trouble hearing from the table, although not from Alexa.
Background on your end, background noise.
Yeah, I can't do much about that.
Oh, okay.
Don, can you hear us if we're projecting towards the screen?
That is better, John. Yes.
Okay, so we'll try to do that then.
Maybe
All
we'll
right,
Oh,
turn-
thank you.
okay.
Okay, now we're discussing, there was a paragraph on the June minutes where we were talking about, actually, we were talking about restoring the Worthington School cupola, which is on the ground. And this paragraph, the way it was written, is that we got funding to restore the schoolhouse on Worthington Ridge.
Oh, rather than specifically a cupola. Yeah.
I don't know what. You could leave off all that stuff, but the project's been done. Oh, I know is, I had asked during that meeting because that work was gonna be going on and I didn't know if, because we were changing from an asphalt to a wood roof, which was more original, that we found that it wasn't the original one, but the original was some sort of metal that is not even made anymore.
Mhm.
Or if you could get it, there's one place in Germany that makes it and it would
Boy.
wildly expensive. But you had said that years ago, we had already discussed
Mhm.
the work that was gonna be done up there.
Yeah, I
so we
remember
didn't have to go through approval. So.
Thank you.
So. Given those changes, anything else? or-
No, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes, subject to the chairwoman's suggested comments regarding correction of name and clarification regarding Worthington Ridge. I'll second that.
Favor?
Aye.
Okay, so the reason I call this meeting is it's kind of important to touch base once in a while. And I know we have a lot of things, like, I know I'm involved in so many things that whenever we have cancellation, I'm like, oh, good. Something I don't have to do, but honestly, like, there's probably stuff we could be doing here and at least meeting and maybe there's stuff going on that I don't even know about that people could bring up.
No, we can certainly have a meeting once every 8 months.
Exactly. So I'm thinking that Alexa, when you know that there's no COAs to be considered, that you ask the group as a whole if they have issues. Because I shouldn't be the one making the call because Herbie may have something you want to bring up.
The only issue is town should communicate with the whole board because of FOI. Communication outside of the public meeting. So it would probably be best to communicate with not just the chair, then potentially just with you and the vice chair. That might be appropriate. You can't have communications, I mean,
I'm just talking about the communication, like when she says there's no
Oh,
COA.
okay.
And then she says, do you want to cancel the meeting? And, you know, I've always been, I know when Maureen was involved, like we were always happy to save the town money, not having a hearing. But really, we've saved the town so much money by not having hearings. We can afford to have some hearings, do some positive things. Or at least have discussions about stuff. And it's good to have, because I'm involved in a lot of things with the meeting house and it's 250th anniversary of the country. And a thing, and you should be in the loop on what's happening with that. So, do we want to discuss the solar issue first? I know, Don, you were particularly interested in that. And when I was originally approached by Weathersfield Historic District, it's needed an issue because I know we've always gone by the state statutes that say you cannot deny solar if it's
Yeah, no, it's like one of those,
unless
you guys more.
it's like where people are gonna get prominently and it's gonna substantially.
Okay, you're just.
That. it does
Well,
say
that's
substantially.
putting in.
Yeah, because right now, the legislation, it can be denied even if it's on the rear. But it would seem to me that it would be unlikely that it would normally impact the historic character and image of the historic district. The issue in Berlin is, I think that's was the case sometimes if it's on the rear, it's someone can see it. I don't know if that's the concern.
Well, I'm trying to think, I mean, there are places like, say, when this district was drawn up, you'd think it would just be Worthington Ridge, but the committee that, there was an ordinance committee drawn up, this is way before my time, but some of the people who were on it wanted their house included. So that's why there's the little jogs on it that sometimes don't make any sense. The like Sunset, because the Wilcoxes lived in the house built St. Louison, and they wanted to be included. So it goes down just so far on Sunset, and the same thing on Wildem.
If you want Hudson Street too.
Oh, on Hudson Street. So it's not just clear cut Worthington Ridge. They didn't go to your house though.
No, we didn't quite make it to our house.
So I'm thinking, I mean, there would be, if you went down Wildem Road, that house that was the Berlin Hotel, that's opposite the memorial, the World War I memorial. If you walk down there, you can see the back of that house from there. But then it would cover because our regulations say anything that can be seen from the public road or sidewalk. Have to look at whether some particular situations they have that are kind of unique, that they're so worried about this.
I think somebody was denied an application for solar panels, it's going to be on the rear, or someone complained to the state legislator. I don't think this is a general,
You guys don't love me, I'm not gonna eat that.
just the way these things work. And the legislature is doesn't have time for this kind of stuff. Right now, it's going up at Hartford, Pura, special education, and the budget in general. I think this one, we would certainly override our ordinances.
No one said like who it was, so I was just nice to meet you.
You know, it's your point.
I'm just like.
It wasn't,
I know you were interested
Make that.
in saying things.
You're like, oh, this is Joseph. Like, hi, nice to meet you. And then I was like,
I'm sorry. If you're talking to me, Lorraine, can you say that again, please?
Well, we're talking about the solar issue.
Yes, I'm picking up on most of it, but it's a little tough.
We're
But
concerned about it, and I just wondered what comments you had on this.
well, from a nuts and bolts standpoint, it probably has very little effect on us. Maybe the side street sections of the district might have some visibility to the rear on a few houses, and I don't know whether those houses are or are not likely to be requesting solar panels. you're not going to install solar panels on the north side. So that home you were referring to that's adjacent to the Memorial Park, I'm that probably might not be the best example, but there may be some. I was wondering if we had or if we should have a dog in this fight, just based overall on the fact that some of the autonomy for the various historic districts throughout Connecticut is being taken away. And is that something we should be concerned about? And if we are, what actions would be appropriate? What actions can we take? And I don't have enough. In fact, I have almost no experience in state legislature and how those statutes come together. And so it was more or less just a question as to whether anybody else on our commission had that concern. And if so, then the question would be, well, where do we take that concern? How would we go about it? And I certainly don't want to burden myself or anybody else on the commission, with an arduous task of pursuing this through the state of Connecticut. But maybe it makes sense to talk to Preservation Connecticut and find out if there's anything being done on a broader scale to disagree with the concept of the state establishing a statute that really takes away some of our autonomy. That was my thinking, and it's kind of a random thought. Again, I don't want to be a crusader here, but if we have an opportunity to object on that basis, my personal opinion is that we should.
I know, a couple years ago, Herb was contacting other historic districts to, you contacted a few just to see
Yeah.
where they stood on
Yeah.
this. And I know at the time, like I went through, because I walk in Weathersfield off and on, and I didn't really see any to speak of. But recently, driving through Durham, I was kind of surprised because there are some prominent solar panels on at least one house there.
Yeah,
It's very visible, and I was kind of surprised by that.
right.
So I know solar is, you see them being installed all over the place now. It's a big hot item. Out where I live, there's it's a reproduction early American house, and they wound up putting on the shingles that are solar shingles. And they're set way, way back from the road, so it's not quite as obvious. But I can't imagine, like, say, some of these houses on Worthington Ridge where you walk the sidewalk and they're right at the sidewalk and looking up and then
Right.
seeing solar panels.
So I think it's pretty easy to make the case with the old regulation that if it detracts from the authenticity of the district or spoils the look of the district, well, yeah, of course it does. So I think our stance on solar panels in particular, that, yeah, solar panels are great, but we don't want to be able to see them. Is the right way to do it. Now, the question of who's got the authority to make that decision, I don't really have any strong. If the state wants to take over that, and mandate it, well, I'm not gonna protest in front of the Capitol with a sign.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
What would we do if we don't like the idea? Are we gonna write a letter or? I don't have any strong feelings either way on it. I'm happy with what the stance we took. And I'm not inclined to go any further with it, but we'll see what everybody else has to say.
Well, I just wanted to run it by because this email, they were contacting all the other historic districts and hoping to gain support because apparently it's a in their town. They must have
And
certain
that was the guy
situations.
from Weathersfield.
Yeah,
I tried to get in touch with him, and he never got back to me back when I was
yeah,
making
isn't
the
it interesting?
survey. Yeah,
So I looked on, you can check the status of bills online and this hasn't moved anywhere. So if you say it's not
it's gonna die on
Well-
its own.
at a high
I would
priority,
be shocked.
yeah. Okay,
Do you know if this is brought up before in past sessions.
I don't remember being brought up. You know, when I originally read through, it seemed like the same thing we've been dealing with, except they have issues where they must have a particular situation where there was something on the rear that isn't that visible, but they denied it, or they wanted to deny it or something.
Is this a planning and development committee though?
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, I looked that up.
yeah,
It
gets out of committee. House.
Like that's first.
you know,
And then you find the person.
So that was one question, and it may be that that bill just disappears or doesn't move forward. But in the little bit of research that I did, I also found another bill that is available on the state website where you can track the status of various House bills, and that's HB 6959. And as I pointed out, I don't know what the connection is. I couldn't tell. I think I couldn't tell who the sponsor of that was. I don't know. Could those be the same bill and it just is enumerated differently? I don't know.
because it seemed like the same bills listed under the two different numbers.
Yeah, that's exactly what it
How
seemed
that
like.
works.
Yeah, I mean,
So it
there's a
sounds like,
House bill, and then there's another generic LCO identification. So a bill can be identified with many different numbers. And Don, it's also possible that there might be just another bill in another committee that's sort of similar to this. That's always possible too.
yeah, and my question was, does anybody know the answer to that? I mean, I guess it could be either, but
Is it this language? When you read that,
It looked like the same language.
probably the same bill.
okay, you would say, and that would not be that uncommon for it to show up at least temporarily as two different numbers.
Oh, I mean, there'll be several numbers associated with it.
Okay.
Whether or
Well-
not in the process. But,
Yeah.
it probably is the same bill, Don.
Okay. The other question I have, and again, I didn't spend a tremendous amount of time researching this, but I was looking for something that at a higher level, the 10,000-foot level, is there something within our state constitution that clearly defines, not unlike the US Constitution, where these are the roles granted to the government, and if it isn't listed here, then it becomes a state or a municipal responsibility. Is there anything at that level that anybody's aware of that would give us a hint as to what authority we might have to reject the proposal?
Well, they're citing like the national standards, you know, with the National Park Service and historic preservation.
Yeah, and I think as a commission, we've read through that.
Yeah.
Either you brought it, Lorraine, or her, possibly yourself. And
Pretty-
the wording,
They're
I was going to
pretty
say, the
clear
wording
about
is very similar.
Another thing that one of our alternate members brought up, and Pam Pethical lives in a historic house in Berlin. And she has a lot of experience with disassembling houses and all this kind of stuff, and she said one thing to consider is the weight of these panels on, like, say, an 18th century home. I don't know if you have knowledge of that, you've worked on old homes.
Oh, yeah, well, old houses, the roof can sag and they're not really there. Generally, the rafters of the structure is a little underbuilt.
Uh-huh.
3-foot spacing between 4x4 rafters.
We have to go in.
On the house, so,
Well, yeah, but that's not, that's an engineering question. Really, hard for you.
but I mean, if are there any points with somebody to try to persuade them not to do it?
Yeah, well, we have to know the structure of their house, but
Yeah.
we're not engineers either.
Well, they have to get a building permit. too.
Yeah, that's true.
Right.
Don, you were mentioning about legislation and about the Constitution.
Mhm.
This provision is under the statutes dealing with regulating historic district commissions specifically, within the Municipal Powers Act. All municipalities are regulated by statute under that section. So
Okay.
to the extent, I don't think the state constitution certainly bars the Municipal Powers Act. Commissions are often regulated by statute, so it's not surprising that there's statute specifically on point about dealing with this. So I would think there's no constitutional problems.
Okay, I guess then I would conclude from that, John, and maybe some of the other conversation that since the existing regulations from the state do control to some degree what an individual municipal commission can do and can't do, and what the rules are for certain things, that it's perfectly appropriate for the state to modify that statute.
Yeah, it's called, it's
There
like, they're called police powers, where the municipality, I use that term generally, health.
Yeah, I
safety,
know.
Well, they call this would fall under that, and the state grants that authority to the municipalities. And, this would be something that would, and right now, you have I think it's 147F, which already deals specifically with solar panels. And that's been around forever. And,
So do you see, John, this bill, assuming it's one bill, this bill then eventually would result in somebody going into the statute and then modifying the statute to reflect the intent of this bill if it's passed?
so right now, the bill is basically just a concept. And what would happen is it would propose actual language that would be used to amend 7-147. I keep saying, I think it's 147F. The bill doesn't necessarily reflect the statutes themselves. It'll just say, here's the bill. This is the language that would be used. And then at some point after it's passed, signed by the governor, that new language would be codified in that section of.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. And I just simply did
I know
not.
you had that, yeah, I know you had that concern about, well, where's this gonna land? Where's this language gonna land?
Yeah, exactly. So eventually it
does
becomes a
reference that.
revision to the appropriate statute.
It will land in the appropriate statute, and the concept bill does actually cite to the statute. So we know
Okay.
where,
So maybe there's no leg to stand there, and I don't want to get all excited about something, unless the committee or the commission rather feels that it's worth pursuing. I would be very willing to give Preservation of Connecticut a call, that one contact I have there based on that meeting I attended some time back, and just see if they have interest or if they have some involvement that has already occurred. Maybe we would just benefit from that knowledge and see where that goes.
yeah, at the very least, they're probably a stakeholder who would be happy to submit a letter to the appropriate committee. And that would be reflected in their, like their JF report, where legislators can read it and see opposition. So that might be a good idea, Don, because then we don't even know if this is on their radar. And they might be more than happy to submit a letter saying, hey, we oppose this. We think that the statute is appropriate right now. That it would, the historic district commissions cannot withhold a permit based solely on the fact that solar panels, if it doesn't impact the nature and character of the district, we think that's enough authority, or we think that's enough limit on our authority. I'm sure they'd be.
Yeah, and I would see if I stepped out of our specific Berlin swim lane for the moment. I mean, I could see clearly where if this eventually the statute reads, except that it's always permissible on the rear of a
Oh, it's a
house.
slippery slope, and I
That could
guarantee.
be clearly could be in conflict with the character of some districts because of the way the streets and blocks are oriented.
Mhm.
And I guarantee you, Don, the language that's in the statute right now is
Yes.
compromised language. So at some
Yeah.
point, it's probably proposed, well, let's just have solar panels, and then legislators said, well, no, let's limit it to, unless if it substantially impacts the district as a, compromise. And then now they want to chip away at it more. So I think holding our ground on that is important. Because I think you're exactly correct. It eventually will lead to solar panels are exempt from historic commission's jurisdiction. To the extent that we even need to be involved, it could get to that point. We're not even involved.
Yeah, I guess that email was pretty unsolicited. It just came across, I think, Alexa's desk initially,
No, I
or was it yours, Lorraine?
and then I asked Alexa if I could share it, because I wasn't clear, is this something that should be shared in a meeting or what?
I got it. Okay. I did see your concern that sharing might have been an issue. So if nobody objects or everybody supports it, I'd be willing to at least make a phone call and find out, one, if if they have awareness. Two, if they had opinions or concerns expressed by other commissions. And three, do they have a strategy they're even considering that would maybe group, that would group individual commissions together with some level of objection? Okay, I will, you can certainly, put that in the minutes. I'll take that as an action at on our next meeting, or possibly earlier than that in an email. I'll let everybody know what the outcome of that phone conversation is.
Great.
Oh, I should ask because you're on P and Z and you're involved in planning and all this stuff, but I remember some years ago, there was a moratorium on, I don't know if it was just solar fields or just solar, what do you call them? If it's a panel that's in a field or something.
Ground mounted?
Yeah,
Ground
ground
mounted?
mounted, yeah.
Is
Yeah.
it still, is it permissible for people to do that? You don't see people doing that.
In Berlin, residential can't do ground mounted.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cause I can't think of anybody having enough open
Yeah.
property that wouldn't. It would have to face south.
Mm,
The only thing I could think of, like, maybe that house, that ranch house that's kind of behind the houses on Worthington Ridge between Hudson and Sunset. You don't even see the house
Yeah,
because
yeah.
the houses were built in front, but say they put one of those freestanding panels in their backyard,
Right.
they probably have good exposure.
Mhm.
But we
Now,
would,
Lorraine, I can tell you, not any survey, but our property, we have like 420 feet
oh, you have a lot of land
depth.
too.
We could clearly put ground mounted solar panels in there.
Oh,
And the orientation would be perfectly aligned where it should be. And I'm not saying we're proposing, in fact, I have no even inkling to consider that. But there may be some other properties where if you looked at the size of the backyards, you might find that
yeah,
it's doable.
I don't know.
But it sounds like there's a town, would it be an ordinance or a statute or whatever that prohibits that throughout the town? Is that what I heard?
Yeah,
Alexa's saying, I wonder why they did that.
that's what Maureen said at a previous
Yeah, I
meeting.
remember that
Huh.
before your time, but I wonder why they did that.
maybe for similar reasons that like sight line of sight and view, maybe for other people it wouldn't. I think that's all I can
But-
think of.
They must be allowing like solar fields,
Yeah, so
because there's one near me on Chamber
yeah,
Highway.
ground mounted, it's allowed for commercial property, so even a business is able
Okay.
to do it, but not residential.
Okay,
Yeah,
Possible it's a safety issue. I don't know. No.
I know some towns allow residential, and some have regulations. If they have a certain amount of acreage, they can. So I'm not sure exactly why. I'm
Okay.
thinking aesthetic reasons too.
Most part, it's on Deming Road, right? That's where all the solar fields are.
the ones that I know of, but like on the Meriden line.
Oh, on
that's where I live, On
Chamberlain.
Chamberlain Highway, they just put in a solar field.
Oh, I didn't even notice that.
Mhm.
Well, you're talking about commercial now, Lorraine, or in
it-
commercial or residential in that example?
It has nothing to do with a house.
Yeah,
Oh, okay, because there's the big, and I can't think of the name of the company, but it's on the Newington Berlin town line.
Yeah,
They have a huge field.
oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Well, what's that, what, on Deming Road, what's the,
that's Essex.
Yeah, don't they have
Or
solar
Or
panels?
Towns or.
yeah, solar panels
Essex.
everywhere,
Yeah,
you can see it.
Yeah, Deming Road, and there's a perpendicular street there where they're very visible too. Is it Episcopal or Church Street or something like that?
Yeah, not
I
a physical, the other
actually
one.
noticed on the old landfill that,
Yeah,
on
Yeah, yeah.
top of that, they have
Yeah.
them,
yeah, New Britain owns that.
the
Actually,
one on Deming Road.
yeah, they own one of them.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, any more to discuss on that?
No, I think this was a good discussion.
Yeah.
And Donna, obviously, thank you very much for reaching out to that
thank
organization.
you.
I'm sure, hopefully this is on their radar, and if it's not, even more of a reason for, I'm sure they'll be happy to hear from you if it's not. on
Okay, yeah, I mean, at this point, all I can do is maybe uncover some data that would help us determine what direction we
And
should look
hopefully,
toward.
yeah. All right, thanks.
Sure.
Okay, so, the next thing I just wanted, because we haven't met since June, And since that time, I don't know if you've seen the Worthington School cupola up close. Oh, you should go look. Yeah, sure. Well, we wound up, we had money from the, I don't know, it was bonding money, but, Jack Fazino, one of our state reps, got us money towards that. Plus there's still like leftover bond money from the original work done on the meeting house, that bond money, it's kind of dwindled. There might be like 30,000 in there now, but when that was bonded, it was stated that that money had to be used on the meeting house property until it was exhausted.
Oh, wow.
You know, they couldn't reabsorb it into the, and I make sure they don't do that. So we had to dip into that a little bit, but we had Justin Fink and Sons do the lead paint abatement. And then we used linseed oil putties to like repair things, and I guess that's like using Bondo and stuff like that is like revolting because it just dries up and then pops out. This like seeps in and holds and it lasts forever. And then he
I
used,
don't know about forever.
well, our lifetime, you know.
Well, I certainly replaced my share.
Well, like, then he used
Anyhow.
linseed oil primer and linseed oil paint and everything. And he did do some repairs. There was very little, it's amazing because that wood is like old growth wood. And if you looked at it, you say like, oh, that's rotten and everything. And it really wasn't, like he could repair, but we didn't want it to look pristine, like a brand new cupola. So you want to leave some evidence of age. And he did replace some of the brackety things that were worn out. And then he could have done, first he said he could do the roof, but then he said it's really not my area of expertise. So we hired another roofer, and it was interesting because he peeled down all the layers. And like I said, the original layer from back in 1850 was apparently this patterned tin roof that kind of went together like a pattern or something, but we decided to go with the wood cedar shakes, and so he did that, and then the filial thing at the top was recovered in copper. And the inside's left unpainted because there's all these initials going back to 1907
Oh,
from
wow.
when it was a school.
Yeah.
And when that was on the top, schoolboys used to climb up this hole in the attic and shimmy up there. And like carve
Really?
in there. So that's really cool to have, and we documented all the names. So the plan is I still have to work this out. Dave Thorne and the engineering department is gonna go on site with me and kind of figure out where it could possibly go. So you have to take in consideration all the underground utilities and everything. But we thought, we don't want to leave it where it is because that was originally a parking place, and we're gonna need parking. And it's under old trail all down. So if you move it over to the north lawn, it becomes an architectural work of art that people can see up close. And it's like a beautiful little wedding cake. And it's really charming to see. It's worth like going up there and looking at it close up. But we need to put it on some sort of foundation, and I'm not clear about how to do that. Like Amy Pressure's husband does brownstone, and he was gonna look at it with me, but then I was sick with COVID, and then I've had sinus thing for like a month and a half, so I never got up there, and then it was snowing, so I want to bring him up there because the town has all this brownstone that was salvaged from the railroad station that could be reused as some sort of foundation there. So that's still kind of in the works for, hopefully that'll happen this coming year. But the building itself, needs repainted. It's been like 20 years since it was painted, and looking at it with restoration painter people, they don't think it was even primed, or certainly not primed properly. So it needs a lot of work in that there's moldings now that have deteriorated because they've been exposed. So there's a lot of repair on the exterior, plus the windows now need to be reglazed and puttied and all that. So it's gonna be an expensive project. But I've been talking to the State Preservation Office, and Doug Solik and I have a conference call with the woman there who manages the historic restoration grants. And they would pay 50% of the cost. But the estimate I got just from one historic painter guy who would also repair the wood features and everything was $200,000.
Whoa. So Lorraine, do you know if lead abatement was done previously?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So that it's certified, then the contractor
Yeah,
that
that
does
was
the
like key because some of the first work we had done on it was with grants, and they made you do all that back then.
Okay, do you believe the contractor knows that he's not being asked? Lead abatement techniques for painting are much more intensive
But
from a
that
labor
whole-
standpoint than,
And that whole building was stripped like 20 years ago.
I'm just wondering, does the current contractor that they got the $200,000 bid, if I heard you correctly, does he know that there's no lead abatement involved?
Yeah, we
It just-
discussed.
He does. Okay, I just
Yeah.
thought, it seems like a very high number, even
Yeah.
for such a large building.
Well, you look at paint, like I bought a gallon of paint is like $60 now. I used to be able to buy it for
Yep.
30.
That's true.
Everything is twice as much.
Okay, I am sorry, I'm not disagreeing with it. I just thought the potential was there for a miscommunication because it would be very expensive.
To lead abatement, that would like astronomically increase the
Yeah.
cost.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
Yeah.
So that was stripped down to the bare wood 20 years ago?
Mhm.
And I know I looked at it with you one time when we had that meeting up there. And that has quite a few of the original boards.
It does, with the rose nails.
With the rose head nails and the shaved tapered
Mhm.
joints.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you don't wanna lose all that, you wanna keep it painted.
right. Well, if it's, the clapboards go bad, they go bad, but yeah, you just want to hang on to
Yeah.
what's there. Especially all those handmade rose head nails.
So the building itself was built in 1774, so it's effectively last year it was 250, but
Okay.
it
And
was
they would
first,
be that old, the clapboards would be that old,
yeah,
with their hand split.
yeah. So.
Wow.
The building was first occupied in 2025. So it's like this year. So the Historical Society, Friends of Worthington Meeting House, and we want to have some event stuff up there this year. Maybe another walking tour, some kind of celebration about the cupola and the history and everything. So those groups I'm involved in are working on that kind of thing. But this leads me into the US 250th anniversary. So that's 2026. And there's a statewide commission for this, and towns have been asked to form commissions. So the town council is going to be recruiting people to serve on this commission. And hopefully they'll be vetted, so it's not just people that want to be on something to say, hey, I want this, and don't do anything. So Kate Wall had Erie from the library and myself and Sally Kelly-Andrew, who's the town historian, involved in just brainstorming some ideas and everything. And I said the Historical Society would be willing to build this into a lot of our programming during the year. And Kate liked the idea of spreading this out, so it's not just one major event, but like smaller events like throughout the year to keep it prominent. So I don't know if any, you know, anybody who wants to get involved in this commission. I think there's some kind of meeting at the town council that is on the agenda tomorrow. I'm just looking at myself as being advising them, but I don't want to actually be on the commission because I have to keep my focus on the meeting house and on the historical society museum and all that. So we're trying to think of programming and events and stuff to do in 2026. Back when they had the 200th, it was like a huge deal in town. They had balls, they had parades, like all kinds of things. I don't know what to expect next year. So I just wanted it out there that that's going on. The tree thing, like, I don't know what we should do with that, like if. We
It's
should,
always next year.
but we need to like get our act together before the
We need to
budget
have
thing
the
starts
meeting.
happening. Or look for grants that could pay for some of that stuff.
I looked last year, we didn't qualify for any.
Do we have that do we panel a subcommittee or something? I didn't
There
recall.
was a tree, there's supposed to be a tree committee, but we never really, since I've joined this. If there was a tree committee, I wasn't aware of it, you know. Back in the old days, I think they had people, but. When I talked to some homeowners, they were like. Of a mind, like, I don't want to break more leaves. kind of thing.
Hmm.
You know, but some other people were saying, well, if they were smaller and like flowering trees, that could be nice.
It would be their choice
Hmm.
if, you know, their site was appropriate.
Hmm.
Or if they want a bigger tree, they're gonna put a bigger tree under the power lines.
Hmm.
And half the reach has power lines
Yeah,
on it, so it would look, they'd be limited to the smaller trees.
and then you also have the sidewalk that the roots buckle it up. We've had that problem.
Oh, yes,
Mhm.
yeah, and again, it all depends on how much room there is between the sidewalk and the street.
Mhm.
And that would determine how big of a tree you could have too,
Mhm.
and what type of tree.
One of the things that came up in New Britain, because the idea is you don't want to plant trees near sidewalks that are going to cause the exact problem that you have and creates a tripping hazard. Was you just use trees that sort of the roots just fan out. They don't, you know, I don't know, they don't necessarily.
Well, there are shallow rooted trees.
Shallow, yeah.
Deep rooted trees.
Yeah, so it would be, you know, the idea is that they fan out, but even if they went underneath the sidewalk, it wouldn't have the effect of lifting up the segments.
Our list of approved trees would have to be deep rooted trees.
Yeah,
They would have to be appropriate to the site.
yeah. I mean, you walk around, not necessarily Berlin, but other municipalities, you see oak trees next to the road, and all of a sudden you see, like, the sidewalk will be like a pyramid.
Well, oak trees aren't bad because they're deep.
Or maybe not oak trees.
Maple trees. are
Maple
bad.
trees, okay.
Pine trees are bad.
Yeah.
They're very shallow rooted.
And pine trees, like, I don't know if you have any in your yards, but whenever we have major ice storms,
Mhm.
like all the limbs like break off.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
oh, yeah.
yeah. Yeah, so it would have to be a, you know, selected list, you know, here are the trees to pick from
Yeah.
and. It's all doable, I mean, we have a plan to review, I did bring it up to the meeting and pass out copies of it, but
Yeah.
never went in
Oh, I do remember that now. It was like 2023 or something.
last year.
Or was it last year?
Yeah. But it's too late to get in the budget this year. We need to talk about it, say in the fall.
The other thing I just wanted to bring up, maybe, you know, status of the town hall. The old town hall building. That is on the blight list and if anybody,
There's supposed to be, the way the ordinance, the whole blight list thing is written up. There's supposed to be a plan between the town manager and the offender. okay, you have to do this. We don't like this, and there's a checklist of things that are wrong. I would love to see the plan for the town hall. What the plan is between the owners of the town hall and the town manager's office. What they expect needs to be done. And how is it being done?
How many properties are on that list?
I think there's only a few, I don't know.
I'm not sure, our zoning officer, Paul, would be the one that.
No, I was
works
saying
on
start
that.
with him,
Yeah, so I can ask him for
Yeah.
information on the town hall.
maybe for an update on.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah,
there's any
yeah, I'd like to
progress.
know the actual nuts and bolts of the plan for the
Okay.
town hall.
okay,
Or are they just making it up as they go?
yeah, I'll find it out.
There's supposed to be a plan, and the owner of the town hall is supposed to know what's expected of him, what has to be done, and when it has to be done by.
Okay.
And then if he doesn't follow the plan, it's a $200 a day fine.
Mhm.
I think it's $200, maybe it's $150.
Okay, yeah, I'll ask.
Herb or Alexa, do you know, is that supposed to be public information? Or is there for some reason
I would
it's
say
not
so.
necessarily off public?
Yeah, it's not anything that's posted online
Right.
or anywhere, but
I
anyone can access it. If you come into the town
We-
hall and ask, you
We
can
kind of
see.
brought it up, and I'd like to know what's going on with it, and what the plan is.
Okay,
Yeah, Don, I'm sure the list is available. It's not a shame list, so they're not gonna post it online, but yeah.
Yeah, no, and I can understand, but I think in just what Alexa said, if somebody asks for it, they should be able to walk
Yeah.
away with it.
Well, that's kind of like another argument I have about painting the meeting house, because here, you're trying to enforce regulations on a private citizen owning a building that needs to be painted. And yet the town owns the meeting house and it's looking rather shabby again.
Mm.
It's a shame because that building is the signature image when you open the town website.
No.
And it's really the most painted and photographed building in our town.
mhm,
And plus, like, to move forward with that and have it look nice for 2026 and the 250th.
No,
Would be like a, you know, something to be proud of.
Yeah. Well, my complaint with it is not even weather tight. I mean, it's gonna fall apart if it's not weather tight. I don't know the condition of of the roof.
You know, because they never replaced the broken windows.
No, I mean, the paint can fall off and it's still not gonna be in too bad condition. Somebody can still salvage it, but
Mhm.
if the roof goes bad and the windows don't get closed out, then it's gonna fall apart really quick. A big off.
That's a shame. 'cause
Well, Herb, just as a visual observation, obviously we live across the street
live
from
across
it,
the
but
Yeah,
the roof, the main platform looks to be in good shape. I mean, the shingles could have many years on them, even a couple of decades, but I don't see any indications of areas being the absence of granules or anything like that. But there are two corners, at least two corners, where the soffit has come apart, for lack of a better word. And I'm sure there is water penetration that's occurring from the roof in behind the soffit on those two corners. There is also an addition out the back, and it looks like somebody really kind of puzzled in the roof joint. And that area of the roof looks pretty suspect, but it's 25 feet up in the air, so I really don't have a good look at it. So, just
Yeah.
in summary, the majority of the roof looks perfectly sound. It's not like it would need a complete reshingling, at least not in the near term. But there are some areas that are very questionable.
It's 40 feet up in the air, so it's really hard to tell
Yes, it is.
on the ground, how bad it really is. But
Yep, and I guess you're right. So there's no assurances. I'm just saying my observation is the majority of the roof looks really good.
I
It
mean,
doesn't look like it's aged to the point that it all needs to be replaced. And that's just a visual observation, Herb. You're right. That's not
Right.
absolutely.
it could start to leak and we wouldn't know it until the roof started caving in.
Yeah, that's probably true.
We don't want it to get that far.
Okay, anything else? Well,
All right,
it's an hour.
very good.
It might be a record.
That,
No
that's
offense, Lorraine.
having a four-person maximum meeting
Yeah.
with no application.
Well, that's the problem, like a lot of times if you have applications, that takes up to the whole hearing, and you don't have a chance to really, people are kind of burned out and don't have a opportunity to discuss other things.
Even more of a reason why we should have these meetings to the extent we can, when there's no application. Just, you know, it doesn't have to be every month, so.
I agree, John.
Every
Most
3
of them,
months,
I
you know,
think,
we have
will be
one
short.
quarterly, no matter what, you know?
Okay,
Hmm.
okay, so do I have a motion to adjourn?
A motion to adjourn.
Second,
I'll second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thanks, Don.
Good night.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Lorraine.
Well, thank you, everyone. It's nice to see you.
Hope you're feeling better. You were
Um,
sick the last